So thanks for joining Heavy today. We've got a bit of a special interview today. We're here to talk about Australian Women in Music Awards and Conference Program 2025 with founding executive producer and program director Vicki Gordon. So Vicki, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kris.
My pleasure. So the awards will be held at Fortitude Music Hall on October the 9th, featuring a spectacular lineup including KATIE MILLER HEIDKE, MISSY HIGGINS, BABYSHAKES DILLON, Heavy's good friend Sarah MCLEOD. So how are preparations for the night going?
They're pretty intense at the moment because we're just, under 4 weeks out from delivering the conference and the award ceremony, and there are a lot of moving parts. It's become a massive, really big event, and there's a lot going on top of just organising the artists and the programming for the award ceremony, the finalists, the conference program, the speakers and the facilitators. So it's a big one for us, and we've got a really big and an extraordinary team working behind the scenes trying to pull this one off this year.
Yeah, and it'd be pretty much a year-round event for you, wouldn't it? Like you just finished this year and you'd be starting work on next year straight away, wouldn't you?
Look, I'm already starting on 2026 now. I've been working on it for the last month, actually. But what actually happens is that we're very, we're a not-for-profit charity. We don't make any money out of the event, and so we're a for-purpose event, and a really big part of the work involves raising the funds to deliver the event every year. So we start on that merry-go-round again in February 2026 and have to raise all the funds to deliver it again in October 2026, and so it goes on. It's a bit of it's very cyclical. And nothing is consistent or secure in that regard.
Wow. So before we go too further into the actual awards themselves this year, I want to talk about the awards as a whole. You started them back in 2018. So what does it mean back then to Australian women musicians, and why did you start it?
So I've worked in the music industry for a long time. I've been a label manager, an artist manager. I've had the extraordinary opportunities to work with First Nations artists for the last 3 decades, right across this entire country. And I've been a video producer. I've worked in lots of areas. And in my time in the industry, it was just always so very obvious to me that women were really absent, particularly in a lot of the technical and production areas. And I have really been, observing that for a long time. And in the early 90s, I established the Australian Women's Rock Institute, and that was way before Australian Women in Music Awards. And I set that up primarily to address the status of women in the music industry, which was, clearly pretty appalling at that time. In that role, I produced Australia's first Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Women's Music Festival and the first training program for female DJs. Due to lack of funding and lack of support, that organisation folded, and then I went and moved into the area of running labels and signed Vanessa Amorosi when she was 15. Have worked with many artists over many years in independent capacity. But in 2017, around 2016, I started to think we've really got to do something here. The leadership in the music industry was pretty much non-existent in terms of gender, in terms of creating change for disadvantaged and marginalised artists, for First Nations artists. There have always been some great people in the industry doing good work, but the general leadership across the industry was pretty appalling. I was one of the first women on the board of ARIA in 2002, and I was representing the independents. Between 2002 and 2018, there were no women on the board of ARIA. And there were very few, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, women on the boards of APRA AMCOS. And I just decided that we needed to do something. I had to do something. I've always been a woman on a mission, and I've always been very active in terms of my commitment to creating change in the industry. I've done it throughout my whole career. And I thought, well, what can we do that is also a celebration? Obviously we can stand on the outside and scream, and sometimes you've just got to get on the inside and kick. And that's pretty much how I established the Australian Women in Music Awards. The thing that's still of major interest to me is the lack of research around gender equality, and still in 2025 the lack of commitment from the industry to gender equality at a policy level. So I did a lot of lobbying. I spent many years lobbying, and eventually I managed to find some support from the Queensland government. I'm based in New South Wales, ironically, and our head office is in New South Wales. But it was actually Anastasia Palaszczuk's Queensland government that actually supported my ideas and supported me to pursue the idea around establishing Australian Women in Music Awards. And at that time, she had 51% women in major ministerial roles. So she was already leading the country in terms of gender in relation to politics. And there's something very similar about the way women sit within the music industry and how they also sit within the political system. So we were very aligned, and I founded some major research in 2017, which was called Skipping a Beat, which some of you will all know about it. That is on our website. That was the last sort of research report around gender equality. And in 2018, I was able to raise enough money to establish the inaugural event.
Well, what was your early vision for the events, and how has it sort of grown since?
The early vision really was about finding areas which is not hard to do, but looking at the areas where women and gender diverse folk were not being acknowledged and recognised, and then establishing categories around those areas where we could then shine a spotlight on those individuals making contributions in those areas. The award ceremony it's really been for me the foundational event that has, I think, been the major catalyst for change in the Australian music industry. Since we established AWMA, we've seen some change in relation to leadership roles. We've seen some change in relation to women on the major boards, which is fantastic, but we've still got a long, long way to go. It was really about creating an event that was also, as I said, a celebration and a positive statement, but that also was able to be a catalyst to create a platform for these conversations to take place.
And you speak about the change, it's been some massive changes since you started, but what are some of the most significant ones, and what further changes would you like to see happen?
There's still so much work to do. I mean, and just in terms of representation across the board in technical and production areas, in relation to pay gap, stereotypes and objectification of women and gender diverse folk, public perception as well. The public perception around the music industry is that the industry is really just about singer-songwriters, and it's not. Obviously, we know through AWMA and a lot of the other award ceremonies that exist that there are all of these other people doing all of this incredible work behind the scenes who don't get acknowledged. And that was another reason why I established AWMA. We've also got the age-old problem of gendered ageism, which is where women are basically being, aging out at about 35 if they're singer-songwriters, because the double standards for men and women in relation to artistic expression and also performance on stage is absolutely enormous. And we're also got to address a lot of systemic issues around gender bias, unconscious gender bias, and a lot of the decisions that are made that do not incorporate or consider the role of women and gender diverse folk in those areas.
So would you say that you're personally happy with the progress that's made so far, or would you like to see much more done?
No, I think that I think in some ways we've gone backwards. We've obviously seen, like I said, we've seen great changes with the boards of the major orgs, and that's fantastic. We have seen, maybe one or two changes in terms of, I'm talking two people, in terms of leadership, but we've still got a long, long way to go. My position, and certainly the board of Australian Women in Music, is that we believe the only way that we can get real change is if gender equality is adopted as a core music industry value. That is the only way that we're really going to see the change we need to see in the next 20 years. Yeah,
nice. Now, what can, the people out there watching this or listening to this and they're involved with the awards, what can they do to help this, I won't say movement, but to help raise the awareness for what you're trying to do? What's going the average everyday person in the music industry do?
Look, I just sat on a fantastic panel actually at Big Sound, and I was with a great group of people talking about authenticity in programming, and tokenism, basically, across the board. And on that panel, there were a number of people, both men and women, who are doing extraordinary work. And I know that there are lots of individuals in the industry that almost sit a little bit outside the industry, are doing everything that they can, whether it's in festival programming and lineups and on the back end, all those sorts of things. But most importantly, we encourage people to get involved with AWMA, Australian Women in Music Awards, and with the event to support what we're doing and to become really active and vocal about the change that we need to see. There's an enormous amount of work to be done. I'm spending a lot of more time now lobbying with federal and state government in relation to the issues that are really important for the sector. And I think there's also a lot of education that needs to take place around gender equality, why it's important, why feminism is really important in the music industry. And I think we're seeing more and more growth in that area, and certainly a lot more interest in that area, but there's a lot of education that has to take place.
Yeah, cool. Now, you touched on this a little bit before, but it's not just the performers who are recognised for their achievements. So the awards also cover the work of people who work just as hard behind the scenes. So what are some of the awards and recognitions there?
So we acknowledge music journalists, we acknowledge music photographers, videographers, we acknowledge those that are working in regional and remote communities who are helping marginalised and disadvantaged artists. We acknowledge through the award ceremony all of the production areas, which are still, the technical and production areas are still probably the least represented by women and gender diverse folk. It's very rare that you'll walk into a live music gig and see a woman on a front desk, front of house, or even mixing front of house, or we do not see female lighting designers just about anywhere. So that's a really big issue for the industry, I think, just getting on board with the technical side of things and making sure that we've got women represented there. One of the things I would say, though, is that we have seen a great sort of emergence of more female music photographers, and that's been really extraordinary. Our keynote address this year is Brittany Long, who is a disabled music photographer, and she's done an extraordinary job just navigating that mosh pit in a wheelchair, like really extraordinary, and is a remarkable photographer. So we are seeing some change there, and there's an enormous hunger, I think, and desire from this next generation of music practitioners and artists to be really actively involved in the change that we're trying to create.
Yeah, and the theme for the 2025 awards is youth, leadership, and legacy. So can you expand on those themes a bit for us?
Sure. So the youth side of AWMA this year is really about embracing the next generation and making sure that we're able to support them in whatever capacity they need to be supported, and creating a visible platform for them. We've partnered with Space Girls, which is a fantastic female and gender queer organisation out of Gympie. They will all be involved with the conference program this year. Legacy is really about reminding ourselves about those women in particular who have laid the groundwork and established a lot of platforms for some of the change that we're seeing now. We're bringing in 10 First Nations women from Borroloola, who are the traditional song women, and they will talk about the legacy that they're creating for young Aboriginal women whilst they're actually surviving and creating music in a remote community. So that's the legacy aspect. And the leadership, of course, is around everything. We need leadership in every aspect of the music industry, not just, in terms of the administrative side of things or the corporate side of things. We need leadership at every single level, and we need it from everybody in relation to gender equality to make the change we want.
All right. So now, heavy music is also recognised this year, not just this year, but every year. But you got nominees for the Oztic Women in Heavy Music Awards. You've got LA-based singer, songwriter, guitarist Leah Martin Brown from Evil Walks. You've got music video producer Chrissy McHugh and the Last Martyr vocalist and music business coach Monica Strutt, all in line for the awards. So it's, with no disrespect to the other awards, it's really good to see heavy music being represented and faithfully, genuinely represented at these awards.
Oh, we love it. And I have to give credit to Erin Nolan from Oztix, who actually was really pushed hard to establish this award category. And heavy music is just another one of those genres, but a really critical genre for women to be recognised, because that area, as you would know, Kris, is incredibly male dominated. There's something, the Heavy Music Award is really, has a really special place in my heart, because I'm really, really conscious of just how extraordinary the heavy music community is, particularly when it comes to the way, how generous they are with one another and how generous they have also been to Australian women in music.
Yeah, and I've interviewed two of those ladies before. I've interviewed Leah and Monica, and they're both great ambassadors for the music scene, great people, great musicians. It's good to see people like that getting out there, so congratulations on that.
Thanks, Kris.
Right. And of course, it's not just about the award ceremony. There's also the full conference program at Queensland Multicultural Centre on October the 8th. So tell us more about that one.
The conference program was really established as to create a platform for new ways of thinking, to encourage new ways of thinking, and to break down a lot of the stereotypes in relation to how we think about the things that are important to us. As I've just talked about in terms of youth leadership and legacy, we're also running a forum this year about women in tech. Obviously, we've just talked about why that's so important and how difficult it is for women to break through in that area. I've also mentioned Brittany Long, who will be our in conversation speaker, the music photographer. So, you know, there's the conference just provides another layer of thought and thinking, and a great opportunity for networking for people who are really interested in the work that we're doing, and also the need for change, to connect with one another and feel supported in a really strong female-led space.
There'd be a lot, like, are males welcome to attend these events at the conference? Like, there'll be a lot of males thinking that if they go along, it's going to be a big hate on males sort of thing, but they're actually encouraged to go and understand what you're talking about, hey? Yeah.
Oh, Kris, you know, it's funny, isn't it? You know, when men create things that are totally male-dominated, no one ever says it's a hate-on-female thing, do they? You know, I mean, we're just doing what we're doing. We are a totally inclusive event at every aspect of and every corner of what we do. We encourage men to be involved. We can't be the change we want to see without your support, and that's why I'm so grateful to be speaking to you today, Kris. So men are absolutely 100% encouraged to be there, to be in the conference, to be at the awards ceremony, to support their sisters, to support their partners, to support their mothers, to support the women in their lives that are important to them. You know, this is not a separatist event. This is a totally inclusive event. And honestly, I mean, I'm pleased to hear you ask that question. Everybody asks me that question. It's an ongoing question. And to be honest, it's a bit frustrating, because I think we're far more evolved than that. I think that what we all want is to be part of this extraordinary community, which includes everybody: non-binary, queer, LGBTQI, men, women, First Nations, disabled. We are an organisation that totally embraces all of that, and every aspect of humanity is absolutely critical to Australian women in music.
Fantastic. Now, what does the future hold for the Australian Women in Music Awards? Or where can you see it going from here?
You know, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because we obviously have to have support from a state government to deliver the event. Our AWMA runs out of contract with the Queensland government in 2026, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I know that we are, and of course I am incredibly determined to keep this going. 2028 will be 10 years since I established the organisation, which will be a phenomenal achievement if we get there. So for the future, at the moment, the tricky thing for us is actually just this annual merry-go-round, keeping it going on an annual basis. And I'm hoping through a lot of the work that I'm doing now, lobbying with federal government in particular, that we might be able to find a place for Australian women in music to be established as an ongoing entity in the industry, to then continue to deliver the AWMAs.
Beautiful. And both the conference and the awards are both ticketed events as well, aren't they? So the public can be part of the amazing double event. So where do people get tickets or find out more information?
So just go to the AWMA website, which is womenandmusicawards.com.au, and on the homepage there is a button there that will direct you to buy tickets through the MoshTix platform. So it's really easy to purchase tickets through our website. And while you're on our website, you can have a look at all of the other work that we're doing and the extraordinary program for the conference and obviously for the awards ceremony. We also have a black carpet. We don't have a red carpet. We have a black carpet. And this year that carpet will be hosted by Sarah McLeod and Dizzy Doolin. And the awards ceremony will also be hosted by Nina Korba, who is a First Nations rising star and a soprano, with Yumi Stones.
Fantastic. Well, I'll be there for sure. Vicki, thanks very much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Best of luck for the awards and the future. It sounds like a great initiative.
Thanks so much for your support, Kris. See you on October the 8th.